this is Todd. Trying to do a quick video today. I know that's always famous last words, but really I hope so because I only have so much time till my wife and daughter come back. They're taking an afternoon bike ride to just use up some energy, particularly my daughter's energy. She's 6, and without school and recess and the kindergarten and after school stuff to drain all that energy out of her, she's just a ball of just crazy running around, screaming, acting like a kid, which is great. But when you're confined to a small apartment, it can be less than constructive. So we try to get her out in the afternoons, at least for a little bit, quick spin. But I'm using this occasion since they are gone. I am trying to sneak in here with a quick tip. I don't know if there's a name for this. I don't know if I've seen it before. I'm not going to pretend that I created it. I don't think I did. But it's something that I don't see used often, and I think it can be a good tool. And I don't know the name of the technique, so I'm just going to throw something out there, and you can take it and correct me in the comments or Twitter, Reddit, wherever you find me, Facebook, or you can use this name or suggest to me another name if you think it will fit. But basically, the concept is sliding random tables. And what I mean by sliding is that instead of taking a straight roll, so let's say you had a random encounter table and you had numbered 1 through 10, and 1 through 10 is each result. What I mean by sliding is, let's say you're going to roll a d10, but there's actually going to be 20 options on the table. And so why I call it sliding is because the results will slide or scale up this chart from the beginning 1 through 10 up to 20. And you may think, well, you're only rolling a 10-sided die, so how could you get 20 results up of 11 through 20? What I like to do is take something. Let's keep going with the random encounter situation. So let's say I'm coming up with this table. I know that the party I'm running for is going to be traveling through a region. I want to run some random encounters for them, or at least present the opportunity for random encounters for them during their travels. But I know that I have a ranger or a druid or both, or some other class that is going to try to use survival or some other skill to expertly weave their way through this terrain, and in so doing, try to either avoid encounters or at least become aware of them before surprise or anything of that nature can take place, so that they can maybe approach them on the grounds of their choosing, however they want to do it. So let's say I take that and I say, okay, I'll set a DC for this day's terrain, depending how many times. I don't want to get into the weeds on the mechanics of your survival checks, but you say, okay, I'm going to run a check in the morning and then in the afternoon. Great. And that lines up with, let's say, how many random encounters I want to roll. I'm going to roll once in the morning and once for kind of afternoon to evening. So I roll that encounter check, or rather have them roll a survival check, and then I'm going to take the result, or often I will take, say, the margin of success or failure, and then add or subtract it from what I would roll on the table for random encounters. Let's say I have my 1 to 20 random encounter table. 1 being nothing or very easy, very pastoral. They run across a squirrel or a chipmunk, and a rabbit, a badger, some deer, and then you get up into 8, 9, 10, maybe some of the predators, get more apex predator territory. You get your bears, maybe a puma or a mountain lion, and then maybe you get into the fantastic creatures in the 10, 12, maybe, I don't know, owl bear is up in 15, and a griffin is 18, maybe some kind of dragon or wyvern is 19, maybe dragon's 20, however you want to scale it. But the worst results are at the kind of the top end of the scale, and the more easy to manage, almost at that point just flavorful encounters are at the low end of the scale. Now we're going to roll that survival check. Let's say they succeed by 5. And I say, okay, and now I'm going to roll behind the screen or wherever, it could be in front of the roll for this table, 10-sided die. And I say, all right, what I'm going to do is take their success and subtract it from my roll on this table. So now I'm sliding the results of this random encounter table. So instead of being 1 to 10, the most I can get is 5. Because they did very well, there's a good possibility they might be below 0, below 1, really, right? 0 or less, in which case just nothing happens. They wanted to get through free and clear, and that's what they're doing. They're going to get through free and clear. So that's the positive side. So, okay, now we've slid the results down, And now we're only looking at a small subset of the original random encounter table, which is based on, hey, they did really well on their survival check, so they're only going to get these things. Those other ones, they've done a good job bypassing it. And you can be flavorful if you want to. Say, oh, you saw this or that, but you choose to go around, or however you want to deal with it. But basically, they've gotten the better part of the pie of the random encounters because they did well on their survival check. Now, of course, on the other end of the spectrum, let's say they do brutally badly and they fail by 8, 9, 10 points. Now you've taken that scale and said, okay, they've done really badly, so they're going to be lost, whatever else. But now when I run this random encounter table, they're only going to get the stuff 10 or above, right? They failed by 10. Now they're in that 10 to 20 range, which means they're going to get something, and it's going to be on the more, say, fantastical. And of course, you can sprinkle your fantasy wherever you want. I really mean by fantastical ones that are more mortal, dangerous threats to them. Easy stuff is on the low end of the scale. High-end stuff is on the high end of the scale. And now we've slid this table's results so that you're only going to get the harder stuff because you failed this check and you failed it poorly. So what you have now is you have a check and you have a table. The table by itself, sure, you could just roll a 1d20 and just say, hey, randomly what you get. But in this way, you're really flavoring, you're sort of customizing your into kind of smaller tables based on how they did in the skill. So the more skillful they are, the more a smaller, easier subset of the tables they're going to get versus if they fail, in which case you have the smaller subset, but on the higher end of the scale. And then you have all kinds of widths in between. You could even, if you wanted to, have different die sizes for different terrains if you wanted to. So let's say we started up saying, okay, we're only going to access about half the table at once with a D10. And then depending on how you slide with your skill check, you're going to either get the low end or the high end or somewhere in the middle. But now we say, okay, I want to keep using this table, but this is a really dangerous. So if my table was, say, a generic woodland forest sector hex, right? So I like that table, it's my generic table. So I want to do this woods that now are wilder. The chances of running into a whole spectrum of stuff is greater. So now I could say, all right, now we're going to roll a d20. And I'll use the same thing, but now you have a risk of that whole table and you're still shuffling around, making these little subsects. You're still sliding the odds around, but instead of just being a smaller window, now you've made it a larger window. Now you've said, okay, if you lost by 2, now you have a chance of just getting 2 to 20 as opposed to before it was 2 to 12, right? So we've taken that slice, we've created bigger, or you could go smaller. Hey, this is a mostly populated area, or it's pretty well civilized. So I'm going to say roll a d6. Now you're only going to get really that you can't get the stuff on the really far end of the spectrum because they simply aren't there. So I've taken this same generic table that I have for the woods, and I've said, well, there's a lot of towns and villages around, and there are woodsmen and hunters and other people in here. Those really top-end creatures just can't survive here. They just have been hunted down or harried somewhere else. So they're not here. But we've got that 6-sided die. So if you still fail badly on your check, you still might get some stuff. You could get, say, if you fail by 6, you could get from 6 to 12. So you could get, maybe the, what did I say? Was it 12? Maybe the owl bear is over there. That could be it's kind of the top end of the danger. And of course, if you roll a 1 or something, you could still, you could fail, depending on what the DC is, that could be failing by 10. So you could get 10 to 16. But chances are you're not going to get those other ones, or it will be very rare. You really have to do poorly. And the DC would have to be really high for you to get to a fact that, oh my gosh, after adding in all your modifiers, I failed by 14. Like that to me would be a really wild thing. And of course you could decrease it to a 4-sided die, or you could even go with a different die formation. You don't have to use the straight dice. You could use a 3d6 or a 4d6 if you wanted to, instead of you could get kind of get those humps, those curves to your odds. But the idea here is to take these tables you have, make them bigger than the dice you might roll for them, use them with a check. So you do it as kind of a joint thing. Here we have a check and here we have a possible thing. And then you moderate the range of results based on that check. And again, for an example, I just used survival and navigating through a wilderness, but it could be all kinds of things. If you wanted to have a skill challenge, we're going to do 5 rounds of the skill challenge. And instead of counting successes or failures, saying you succeed after 5, you just say, well, we're going to do a round of 5. And then however many successes or failures, again, are going to set your range on the table. So if you everyone at the table succeeds, then you're at that -5. Everyone at the table fails, and you're at +5. And if it's some combination in the middle, you're -1, +2, whatever it is. Add that, and then you swing the results on the table. You slide along the table. So there it is. Just a little thing that I like to use in different ways. And again, I don't mean to. Hopefully, I haven't stolen it from anyone. I don't think I have. I don't see it around that much, but again, I don't. I'm not gonna take credit that I invented it, but throw that in your GM toolbox. Take a random table or any kind of table that you want to roll and figure out results. The idea is to take something. I use in this case a roll. You could use it could be an attribute thing. Oh, you're +4 at strength, therefore it shifts the table that way. However you want to use it, but use these things to kind of make big tables. A way for you to use tables. Use them, shift them around, slide them around. Just a technique that I use. Thought I would pass it along on a quick video. We're still in the coronavirus, so be safe, be healthy, and I'll talk to you later.